So just to start out, I want to let you guys know this is going to be a pretty speculative video, so if you're not into that kind of thing, this may not be the video for you. I do have the Everything Known About Pax Day video, which I recently updated, and you can watch on my channel. If you want just the facts of what we do know about Pax Day, that'll be a good video for you to watch. But in this video, I kind of want to get into the PvP and what might be going on with the PvP. There's not much we know, but I'm going to try to speculate and put some pieces together and try to figure out what I think the PvP could potentially look like in Pax Day. So let's jump in and try to figure it out. As some of you may know from watching some of my Ashes of Creation videos, PvP is one of my favorite parts of MMOs. And Pax Day presents the potential to have really great PvP systems as it borrows heavily from EVE Online, which to this day is still considered one of, if not the best, sandbox PvP MMO. But we don't know much yet about the PvP in Pax Day. The latest updated official FAQ on the Discord is the most up-to-date information we do have. First, they start with the question, will PvP be strictly opt-in? And they answer that by saying, we want to make PvP feel very dynamic and more about social structures, roles, and positions of power in player-formed communities, instead of just a static PvP toggle or zone restrictions. We don't want PvP to feel like a separate mode and create a gap between PvE and PvP players. PvP should be an integral part of the world and economy. We plan to offer players interesting and meaningful ways to opt in and dip their toes in PvP. The goal is to marry PvE and PvP together by offering opportunities for both to bring value to the other party, be it facing the dangers of PvP or creating the best gear for PvP players. The Heartlands will be restricted from PvP fights. Outside the Heartlands, players will have various options to choose if and how they want to experience PvP and how much they're willing to risk in doing so. And then they talk about item loss in PvP with the question, will players lose all their items in PvP, and will PvP be full loot? And they answer by saying there will be value loss in PvP and players will be able to decide how much they're willing to risk for greater rewards. However, we're not ready to share the full details on PvP loot at this point. So as I said in the updated Everything Known About Pax Day video, my speculation of what this could potentially mean is that players might be able to flag in certain zones, and when flagging, players can choose how much or how little gear they would be willing to risk if they lose in PvP. So players might be able to flag for PvP but not select any gear at all, or players might be able to select half their gear, or maybe even all of their gear. Based on the amount of gear selected and the tier and quality of that gear, players might get a buff to experience gains, the amount of gathering materials per node, or the loot tables in PvP might improve. And some zones might not let you risk at all. Some zones might have a cap on how much gear you can risk. Also, I think some zones might force you to flag for PvP but not make you risk gear. And some zones might force you to flag for PvP and at a minimum risk a few pieces of gear. To me, this might fit with the hybrid zone and opt-in flagging they have alluded to a few times now. But what about large-scale PvP and sieges? Well, we know almost nothing about this. As I said in the Everything Known video, one of the devs did say they prefer smaller scale engagements, but that of course doesn't confirm or deny the scale of the world PvP we might see. The only thing we have seen is the mention of player-built castles by a few developers, but the mechanics of enemy players sieging these castles or any other player buildings in PvP zones is still a complete mystery. But with this game having a lot of survival game roots like Valheim, I could see sieging being allowed. The big question I have is how the mechanics surrounding that might work. This dev team seems to be very against instancing and wants as much fully emergent gameplay as possible, but I think with sieges, instancing and having set times that sieges can happen makes a lot of sense. Some survival games have done this and others haven't, but a lot of MMOs do have set times, instance sieges, and player caps for the siege. If sieges are truly done in the open world wherever players want, I do wonder how that might work with the developers potentially using Unreal Engine networking, which historically has struggled with large player counts. They have mentioned stitching servers together to increase the server player count, but I definitely wonder how that might work if a mass of over 1,000 players all congregate on one massive castle siege. And then if sieges are allowed to happen at any time, that opens up all sorts of issues like midweek nighttime sneak attack raids that are very hard to defend. On one hand, I like the constant fear that a raid might happen on my castle at any time. fine, but at the same time, I like a more even playing field of set siege windows and siege declarations needing to be done ahead of time to give the defenders a chance to prepare for it. So it will be interesting to find out more about what the sieges and large-scale PvP in Pax Dei might actually look like. But this is just my speculation and is not in any way the official stance of the Pax Dei developers. Let me know if you have any other ideas of what PvP could look like in Pax Dei. With that, I hope you liked the video, and I'll see you in the next one.